Marcellus, I'll start with you. Should the Cardinals take Nick Bosa over Kyler Murray?
No, they should take Kyler Murray. One, if there are similar comps, I'm always going to go with the quarterback over the defensive lineman. And that's coming from a former defensive lineman who knows.
That's big right there.
Yeah, I know the limit we have in terms of impact on the game. And there is a limit. Let's talk about what his comps are also if you're talking about Kyler Murray. A lot of people like you who think there's a height requirement to play the position. One, Russell Wilson will disagree. One of my former teammates, Drew Brees, will disagree. And being built for two sports is a compliment, not a detriment, because Russell Wilson was built for two sports, and look how that turned out. For the comp, which is Kyler Murray, who's a faster, more athletic, stronger arm, better pocket presence quarterback leaving the collegiate game than one Russell Wilson was. So you say all those things. I'll give you this last scenario in terms of what a quarterback can do and what a defensive lineman can do. Of the top 11 pass rushers last year by sack totals, 5 of those made the playoffs, and more than half of them did not. Well, let's talk about the Final Four in football, AFC, NFC championship games. Let's see who we're playing quarterback. Let me think. Some MVP candidates, I think. Mahomes, ooh, Brees, ooh, Goff, ooh, Brady, damn. Top 4 scoring offenses all in the Final Four football. Hey, if you got something that's comparable, go quarterback over D lineman every day.
Yeah, it's prerequisite, right? I mean, that's how you build a championship. It's Algebra 1 before Algebra 2. You got to have the quarterback before you get the requisite pieces around that. And listen, there are a couple of teams that have gone an alternate route to win a championship. I think maybe you could argue Seattle did it, even though Russell was terrific during their Super Bowl years, but they relied heavily on defense. You can for sure say that Baltimore did it with their great Hall of Fame-laden defense on every level. It wasn't just one defensive end or one linebacker or one safety. Remember, Baltimore had Hall of Fame-level players on every level of their defense.
You got to get the first one first.
When their defense led them to a championship. You got
to get one first.
I would argue that Peyton Manning was to a point in his career where his defense in Denver led them to a Super Bowl championship. Now, again, they had great players all over, all pros and man coverage on the outside like Chris Harris and Aqib Talib to go along with guys like Von Miller up front. I'm saying all that to tell you, the road to winning a Super Bowl based on your defense is few and far between. It is very narrow. But the road to winning a Super Bowl because you've got a great marriage between a dynamic quarterback and a great head coach, that is the wide road. That's where the most lanes are open, and I think that's the marriage between Kyler and Kliff.
My only problem is you're not a quarterback away. If you were a quarterback away in Arizona, I'd say, all right, guys, let's do it. Let's make this move. And I understand giving Kliff Kingsbury the pieces he needs to be successful is essential in this, in saying if he feels like, hey, I think Kyler Murray can execute my offense to the way I envision it, then, yeah, that holds a lot of weight. But, man, to have a guy like Bosa as a defensive guy and a guy that, you know Bosa's going to be there for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years if he stays healthy. He's not one of those guys where we have to see, hey, well, is he going to be this? Is he going to be that? Is this going to work? Like that quarterback position, yes, it is essential in the National Football League to be successful. You need a quarterback. But like Whit said, you got to start somewhere.
Sure.
And this is a piece that I feel like you cannot miss with him.
Well, why not last year? I thought we started last year when you moved up in the draft with the 10th pick and you went and got Josh Rosen, who had a horrible rookie campaign but still has tremendous talent at the position. So I'm not going to marry Kyler Murray to the words of a coach who was playing him in a collegiate game thinking I was still going to be a collegiate coach or coordinator.
Yeah.
I'm not going to marry the organization to those words. Those are just glowing remarks you make about any opponent, especially a Heisman Trophy candidate.
However, if you are evaluating Kyler just as a quarterback, okay, and I know people, I get it that people are hung up on his height. I understand that. Now, 5'10", I think alleviates some of that rather than 5'9". I think alleviates some of that. Maybe not all, but some. Now, hold on. If he was 6 foot and an eighth, I think we'd be talking about him as a generational talent. Hold on now. He's the best passer coming out in the draft.
He started 1 year.
He's the best passer coming out in the draft.
He started 1 year.
And he's
There's
also,
a blueprint
hold
for
on now,
college experience.
he's also historically one of the great running quarterbacks that we've ever seen. I didn't say just this year. I said ever seen. You can go back and you can dig. I'm talking about dig into the numbers of Lamar Jackson and Michael Vick and Vince Young and RG3 and Cam Newton.
What quarterback has run to a Super Bowl in the NFL?
I'm just telling you right now, when you put together the acumen that he has throwing the football, i.e. he's the top-rated passer in every single category in the college level on 3rd and 7+ and when he's down by a score. Those are the two biggest. I'm just telling you, marry those two together,
Joel,
he's a generational talent.
Let me ask you this.
He's more of a generational talent than Bosa is.
Which one is can't miss? Which
Kyler
one
is.
No.
All right.
Can't miss. Is more can't miss than Nick Bosa.
In today's
Nick
NFL.
Bosa, if you had to bet right now who's going to play in the most Pro Bowls, Nick Bosa or Kyler Murray?
If the Pro Bowl meant anything, I would answer that question.
It just means
if you want to ask me who's going to be more impactful for their team for the next 10
now
years,
we're
it's
talking.
Kyler Murray.
Greater upside, greater impact, greater potential of making a difference.
Greater chance of flopping.
You're playing scared money that doesn't make money. And that's what most NFL evaluators do. They are so risk averse, they're like, where's the mutual where's the stock? No, that's too risky. Let's go back to the mutual bond. Okay, there we go, safe. I know he's going to be there, D-line. If worse come to worse, I can hide him in the interior.
And no one's going to criticize me.
No one's going to criticize me.
Look, I
chose the safe bet. Come on, man.
This is my problem. I think Kyler Murray is going to be a great pro, without a doubt. I just don't think Arizona has enough pieces around to make him successful.
That's a more interesting discussion, actually.
I like that one.
That's my only point.
Why would you
Are we just saying because the coach runs a college-style offense?
I would trade down and get more pieces. I need a lot. I would trade the number one pick.
I would go get the one player in the draft that I know is going to be a great player.
I don't think there's even consensus that he's the best defender. I think some would tell you Quinnen Williams is, the tackle from Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue position, need, things like that. But I just wouldn't jump and take Kyler Murray, one, just because he's a quarterback. I do think he's a great player, but even to hear Joel say, well, if he was 5'9", we'd be having this, or if he's 5'10" or 6 feet. Like when people say, oh, this dude ran a 4.4, this dude ran a 4.6. If the average fan knew how close that is, how just another inch and a half of my arm length will alleviate my 4.6 versus your 4.4. Like, it's such microscopic details. And when we get to the combine, I think everyone nitpicks and pulls at every little thing. Put the film on.
Yeah.
And that's what I go back to.
Not blindly, though.
I put
don't minimize
film
that
on,
inch.
and he can play.
Don't minimize that inch. Don't minimize that step. Barry Sanders sat me down, and I was blessed to be in his presence as a young player. And he told me, you know the difference between a 6-yard loss and a 60-yard touchdown? He's like, you're out of your gap this much. Think about it. Watch how many great plays you see. And, Eli's heroic pass in the Super Bowl was inches away. Like, that stuff adds up. I hate when we minimize
I don't want to minimize it either, but you also need guys to exploit that type of space. Right. I think Nick Bosa is one of those guys. Listen, I think Nick Bosa is fantastic. Mm-hmm. I will say this, and this is probably the most unpopular thing that I'll say. I think the New York Giants made a massive mistake last season.
I said that.
And I can also say that Saquon Barkley was my favorite player in the draft last year. Those two things can be true.
Yep.
Saquon can be unbelievable, and the Giants can have made a massive mistake in the draft. You got to get the quarterback first.
Another prospect.
No. You have to get the great player first.
How'd that work out for the Giants? Because the last I checked, they're still selecting way up near the top of the draft, and Cleveland's not.
I would just say, Joe, to argue that point forward, a running back is a lot different than a pass rusher.
Yeah, that's true. More impactful for a pass rusher.
As impactful.
Right.
If we've seen what Khalil Mack did for Chicago, we're watching Aaron Donald do what he's doing now.
That was a top defense even before Khalil Mack got there, and then he just took him over the hump.
Over the hump.
Well, to what hump? They lost in the first. They went to the playoffs. And lost
but
first.
They still going to
be.
Not
so much.
It's something to build on.
Yeah,
it's definitely something to build on.
And you really got something to build on.
That's what we're trying to. That's what I feel like they should be trying to do in Arizona. Is build on some things. And yeah, Kyler Murray is a beast. I mean, when I watch him play, I mean, he is amazing to watch.
I'm not sitting here saying Kyler Murray won't be a great NFL player. Maybe he will be. But there's a bunch of measurables and things that say, I'm a little worried. And when I look at Nick Bosa, I have no fear. And this whole deal of Kliff Kingsbury, who failed at Texas Tech, and now because his system that failed at Texas Tech, we're going to bring it to the NFL, and we got to get the perfect quarterback to run the system that failed at Texas Tech. We got to bring it to the NFL.
But again, I think Kyler's better than that. He's not just a fit for one system. Like I said, he's the best passer in the draft.
Who else is trying to go up there to get him? Nobody.
John Gruden would go up there in a heartbeat. There's several of them.
Derek Carr is getting potentially shot for what reason?
There are people trying. I will say this. You were covering this team. Kansas City had maybe the second greatest player that I've ever seen on a football field behind Lawrence Thomas for how many years? When Derek Thomas was on the field, man, there was nobody more explosive and nobody better. But guess what? It didn't matter. You know why? Kansas City had no one to pull the trigger.
Yep.
For how many years? And you covered that team.
Say it.
I get it. It's great to have a quarterback. And it's really great to have one that's 6'3", 6'4".
I mean, how'd that work out for Dave Craig? Great. He could see over the line. How many Super Bowls you win?
Yeah.
A great one. And listen,
Wilson,
man, Kyler Murray may be it, but we're going all in on Kliff Kingsbury's system. How'd that work out for Texas
Well,
Tech?
all I will say is if they both hit, D lineman and quarterback, which one's going to give you greater success? As you look at all the Super Bowl winning quarterbacks of the last 2 decades, there are only a few names, and they're all future Hall of Famers: Brady, Ben, Peyton, Eli, Breeze, Rodgers, Russell Wilson. Very few outliers when you talk about Flacco and Brad Johnson, and you could throw Nick Foles in the middle and figure out where he's going to be once he's in Jacksonville. Point is, roll the dice for both. If they both hit, which one's going to give you the most success? We know that answer.